Hi, welcome back to Mr. Slover's Math. Today we're going to talk about negative and zero rule for exponents. So we're going to jump right into it. Negative exponents in the numerator, which is the top, get moved to the denominator, which is the bottom, and become positive exponents. Negative exponents in the denominator get moved to the numerator and become positive exponents. AKA, you cross the line, change the sign. So your line is your fraction bar. So you cross that line, you got to change the sign. So if I'm moving from the numerator to the denominator or top to the bottom, I have to switch that sign. So here's our two examples. Negative in the numerator. So if you have x to the negative fourth, well, you can always write something over 1, which is what I wrote here. So if I put this over 1, now I move what's up here and I move it to the bottom. So now it makes more sense now that there's a bottom. There's a top and a bottom. Take it, I move it to the bottom. It now becomes positive because I crossed that line. Same thing here. I have a negative in the exponent. I have a negative in the denominator. So I am moving it from where it is up. Well, I cross that line so it becomes positive. So if you wanted to, you could put it over 1, but you don't have to. Now you may be thinking, well, Mr. Slover, what about that 7? That 7 doesn't have a negative exponent. If it doesn't have a negative exponent, it's not moving positions. It stays where it is. And we'll see that in the notes. So the first part I'm asking you to simplify. Y to the negative fourth. If you want, put it over 1. I need to move it from the numerator to the denominator because I want a positive exponent. You know, mathematicians are weird and we got to have these weird rules. So one of them is that we only focus on positive exponents unless we're dealing with scientific notation. So you need to move it from the numerator to the denominator. You cross that line, you made it positive. Change the sign. 6 to the negative 2 power. Once again, if you want, you can put it over 1. Move it from the top to the bottom. Now, if you wrote 1 over 36, that's fine. It's the same thing. I just didn't do what 6 squared. I didn't evaluate it. And then letter C is the same thing. B to the negative 7th. Because it's a negative exponent, I have to move it to the bottom. And I cross the line, so I change the sign. Now in number 2, same concept, but now make it a little more challenging. So m to the negative 3, y to the negative 7. Since they both have negative exponents, I need to move both of them from the numerator to the denominator. And that's okay. Anytime there's negative exponents, you move it. So in letter B, I have a negative exponent, but it's already in the denominator. So that means I have to move it from the denominator to the numerator. So I'm moving it from the bottom to the top, x to the 5th. And then letter C, I have 1 over 4x to the negative 5th. Now the only thing that has a negative exponent is the x to the negative 5th. The 4 does not, which is why I said it stays. It does not have negative exponent. The x to the negative 5 was the only one with the negative exponent. That's the only thing that is moving. So I move that from the bottom to the top. And example 3 is just more that you need to more practice. So I have 10 divided by 2 becomes 5. And then I have y and y, same base, so I can subtract them. 10 minus 4 is 6. So you're like, well, Mr. Silver, that's not what we just learned today. I agree, but now we're practicing all of it together. Everything that we've done so far. The division, the multiplication, power to a power, and the negatives. So it's all in one big example. So we need to take our time to notice what exactly we're seeing. So the top 3 are division. Well, let's look at letter D. This one's not division. So this one is a power to a power. So remember when we had a power to a power, you multiply your exponents together. Well, this 2 has an exponent of 1. So we still need to multiply that by negative 2, which is how I got the 2 to the negative 2 power. And then we multiply our x exponent. So 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. So I have 2 to the negative 2 power times 4 to the negative 4 power. Well, I've got two negative exponents, so I need to move them both from the numerator to the denominator. Likewise for letter E, if I see a negative exponent, I have to move it. So I multiply my coefficients, negative 4, and if you want to, you can put a 1 in front of that h, or you can just leave it. So negative 4, and then same base, h and h. So I add my powers. 6 plus negative 10 is negative 4. So this negative 4, the coefficient negative 4, stays in the numerator because it doesn't have a negative exponent. But you're thinking, well, there's a negative. I agree. It's negative 4 to the first power. Okay, that first power is a positive power, so it's staying where it is. The h, on the other hand, does have a negative power, and that's what's going to move. So h to the negative 4, that's what's moving. Moves from the top to the bottom, so you cross the line, you got to change the sign. And then letter F, we've got 3 plus negative 2 plus negative 1 gives you 0. Since this is all multiplication, just like we did in letter E, we add our powers together and we get x to the 0. We haven't seen this yet. It's a little bit of foreshadowing. We get 1, which leads us into the last rule of exponents, the 0 rule. Any base with an exponent of 0 is equal to 1. So x to the 0 is 1. 5 to the 0 power is 1. 6c, all of it raised to the 0 power, is 1. 341 cubed b squared c to the 4th, all raised to the 0 power, is 1. So anything raised to the 0 power, whether your base is a variable or your base is a number, becomes 1. When you are simplifying and you have negative exponents, or you just have negative exponents, you need to make them always be positive in your final answer. So that means you need to move them if need be, but only the negative exponents. You cross the line, change the sign. So if you have questions,